What's going on, you guys? I hope everybody is being safe and staying healthy. I apologize if I sound a little different today. I have been sick for a few days, so I'm having a hard time breathing through my nose. Please bear with me, but I didn't want to miss posting this week as I have been trying really hard to post at least once a week for you guys. I did bring the first letter that my husband wrote to me, so I'm going to be reading this one at the end of the video. But before I start, I just want to pour a little drink as my throat is very dry right now, so I need to okay. Now that I have my drink, I guess I will start from the beginning. So for anyone that didn't tune into my previous video, I quickly touch up on there on how my parents were very strict and I really didn't have too much freedom. But at least until I reached junior high, then things changed a little bit for me. But before that, I was stuck at home, and the only thing that I had for entertainment was obviously TV and books. And so during that time, there was a lot of crime shows on TV. There was like A Current Affair, there was Autopsy, America's Most Wanted, and I was really into watching documentaries, movies. I used to read a lot of books, magazines, newspapers. Ever since I was young, the whole crime genre has been a part of my life. I've always been a huge advocate for prison reform and rehabilitation since I was a child. But fast forwarding from there, when I did have time, I would, there was a certain website that I would go on where it would give you a list of all of the men and women that were currently sitting on death row, like in the US. And so it would give the name, a brief description, what they were in for, how long they had been sitting on death row, and whether they had an execution date or not. But once I graduated high school, I had no time to really be on the internet. I was working 2 full-time jobs, and it's not that I lost interest. I just my mind was on making money. But fast forwarding up to 2011, after my suicide attempt, I ended up in the hospital, and I was there for, I believe, 6 months in the psychiatric ward. But during the time that I was there, I wasn't sure how long I was going to be there for. And we're not allowed to have cell phones, and I snuck mine in. But I was hardly on it because I was really medicated when I was there, and I wasn't myself, obviously, and I wasn't very functionable. But I remember the times that I was awake and alone in my room. I remember pulling my phone out and just scrolling. That website popped into my head. I decided to search it. I didn't find it. Maybe they changed the name, or the whole look of it, and I didn't see it. But I did come across other sites, and I clicked on one in particular that had all of these photos and a brief description on the person, and it had men and women alike on the site. And then I realized it was a pen pal site, and I was like, oh, this is interesting. I didn't know that was the thing. So then it reminded me that over here in Canada, usually from kindergarten to grade 6, I know that some of the teachers like to have their students become pen pals with other students from different schools in different provinces. And so I remember it being so much fun. I used to love doing it because we would send photos and obviously the letters, and sometimes we would send gifts. We would go back and forth. So I remember always just having so much fun. I thought about how maybe it might be nice for me to write to someone so that we can keep each other company, as I didn't know when I was going to be sent home. and in my condition and in my state, I felt like I was going to be there a long time. So I had narrowed it down to two men, one being my husband and one being another man from Washington. And I believe the other man was going to be released in 2017. And my husband was serving a life sentence. So I decided to write to my husband, as I felt that it would be better, for me to write to him as opposed to the other man, because the other man did have a release date, and I'm sure like he was preparing, for his release date, even though he had a few years left. So I wrote a letter to my husband that I never sent, and I'm glad I never sent it, because when I moved into the house I currently live in now, I came across that letter, and it was just very, very sad. It wasn't the best letter to write to someone that was in prison. It was very dark. So I'm glad I didn't send it, and but eventually I was sent home, and actually I completely forgot about it, because like I said, I was very medicated and all of that stuff, so like I forgot about it. Mind you, I was in no condition to have been sent home, or because I was very much, I felt like I was even more suicidal. I remember my mom, she was cooking dinner that day, and I told her, I'm gonna go for a walk, I need some fresh air. I'm like, I'm just gonna go down the block, I'll be right back, like 5-10 minutes. And obviously my parents were very afraid and very protective, because they didn't want me to hurt myself again. And so I assured them that I was gonna be okay, that I just wanted to take a walk in the rain, that and they know that I love the rain, so they assumed that it would be okay. Ever since I was a child, I've always loved the rain, I've always loved the thunder, and so like when it rains I like to go and like walk without an umbrella. It just feels so comforting to me. So I went to the side of the house and decided to go down the alley. I realized that was my chance to try again and end my life. And I started to look for anything that I could use to hang myself. And as I walked further down the alley, I heard my father calling my name, just from just very faint. And but I didn't see him, so I was like, oh, it's just in my head, it's just in my head. And I saw this piece of it's like a pallet, and it was leaned up against this really big garbage bin, and there was this metal piece that was sticking out between two houses. Like it was like a metal that was like conjoining to this pole, and so I was like, I can reach that. I'd be able to get up there. And I started to look for an object that I could tie around my neck. And as I was looking, I heard my father's voice again, and it was very more clearer this time. And as I looked back, I saw my father pop out into the alley, and he ran to me, and he said, "Where are you going?" And I looked at him and I said, "Oh, I was just walking. I was gonna go around the block." And like I had to lie to him in that moment, because I just seen the look on his face, and just the tears that he was holding back. I couldn't bear to tell him what I was about to do. And he's like, "Oh, okay, well, come back with me now, let's go this way, because your mom, is done with dinner, let's go eat." And I said, "Okay, yeah, let's go." We walked back to the house together. I knew in the moment that I needed help. Either I got better or I ended that pain and that suffering. And I made the choice to get better. I felt like I had no purpose in life. I felt like, what good was I? I felt like I was no use to anyone or anything. And so I made the decision to change that, and I made a list. I made a list of things that I wanted to do. One of the things was I was going to start running again. I am a runner. In the meantime, I need to try to at least have the energy in order to get these things done. And so the very next morning, I put on my shoes and some sweatpants and a t-shirt, and I went for a run. And obviously it was very difficult for me, being an addict. Obviously you're not in a very healthy state. So I start running, and the next day I ran again, and I ran for 2 weeks straight. And after the 2 weeks, I felt like I had more energy. I was running without having to stop. I went from running 1 mile to running 7 miles. That was in a matter of 2 weeks. So on that list, one of the things was I was going to help someone that was incarcerated, and I was going to help them with books, with money, with whatever I was allowed to help provide. That's what I was going to do. And then I remembered, I vividly remembered that I had gone on that website, and so I decided to go back on the site and pick someone. As I was scrolling, I didn't recall, I knew that I had gone on it, but I didn't remember that I had picked someone, let alone written a letter. I had no idea that I had done it. And so as I was scrolling and scrolling, I came across my husband's profile, and I went through the whole thing, and nothing caught my attention, nothing, just his. And so I was like, okay, so then, his it is, right? That very night I wrote to him, and I was very honest. I was like, I'm not doing too well. I told him a little bit about myself, how I was going through a lot of changes, and I had certain plans that need to be that I had put into motion, that that I was preparing for. And I sent my letter. I'm sorry. I can't breathe through my nose. So one of the other deeds on my list required me to move to a different province. In the States, I know you guys call them states, but here in Canada we call them provinces. And so it required me to move to a different province. And so I started to prepare for that. I was going to my family doctor. I was getting as healthy as possible, and the running really did help me a lot. It put this new drive in me. Yeah, I believe it was a week before I was to leave, and I was just gonna go leave to go get things in motion, and then I was gonna come back home, and then I was gonna prepare to make the full move. My mom came in and she handed me a letter, and I completely forgot that I written to my husband. The very next day I wrote him back, and I explained to him, hey, I have certain things that I need to get done, and I'm going to be away for a bit, so if you don't hear from me, that's why. Our conversations from the beginning was very it was as if we had known each other for a very long time. We just connected so quickly, and we were just so comfortable. We just started, writing back and forth. And when it came time for me to move, the last night that I was at home, I was going to leave the very in the morning. He arranged to call me, and so we talked on the phone for the first time. It was as if I was talking to an old friend. And so he and I kept in communication after that. So when I moved the next morning, he was the one that kept me company. He's the one that was talking to me. He was the one that was writing to me. And we were just going back and forth. That's him messaging me right now. So during that year, he was in the hole. He encouraged me a lot. He helped me a lot with my recovery. mentally, physically, emotionally. He was there. Every step of the way, he walked me through a lot of things. For a lot of people, it's very hard to believe, that someone that's, in prison could help somebody out here. But he did. He's one of the main reasons why I was able to make it. One of the reasons why I am who I am now. He's one of the reasons why I've succeeded. He's played a huge part in my life. I feel like I would have recovered, but not at the fast rate that I did if he hadn't been in my life. He just, I have no words to express how grateful and thankful and blessed I am to have met him. It was just like, I couldn't tell you, the gravity of my situation in that time, and how he came in and he just, no expectations, no, which, by the way, when I asked him if, what he needed, things like that, he didn't accept anything. He said nothing. He was, I just want to be your friend. I just want to talk to you. And mind you, I didn't listen to him. I still said him things, and so from there on in, he asked me to be his girlfriend. So I accepted, and it was after the year was done, I flew out to visit him. The visit was behind glass. I was very nervous. I had never done anything like that. I was allowed to visit him for 3 days, and I was allowed to have 3 visits with him, and they were each, I believe it was 2 hours each, or yeah, it was 2 hours each. And I'm going to read the letter now. I guess there's nothing more to say. Mind you, this letter is 10 years old. I don't know, I remember what it says, but not word for word. So, hey there, how's everything up in Canada? Well, hopefully it's good and you're doing well. I received your letter last night and it really touched me. So here I am at 8:30 a.m. with a smile on my face. I usually don't get a chance to write this early in the mornings because we always have yard scheduled or day room. So this is an odd day already. It's okay though. I was anxious to write you back, so it worked out perfectly. Anyways, it was nice to meet you too. I like how open and honest you seem. I was laughing how you told me you can be a bitch. That's funny, but yeah, I have 3 older sisters, so I already know about the mood swings of women. It ain't nothing though. We all have our days, right? Sometimes I'll be in a pissy mood for no reason at all, snapping at everyone around me. Usually I'm not like that though. In fact, people are usually amazed when they find out how much time I'm doing, because they would expect someone with my time to be miserable, and I'm not. On a different note, I like your name a lot. It's unique. You're from El Salvador, huh? Did you go to Canada when you were really young? Well, it sounds like a family is important to you, like it is to me. Damn, you have a huge family. I like that thought of a big family like that. My parents are still together as well. Been married for 30-something years. I forget the exact number, but the point is that they love each other and took their vows seriously, which is admirable. It's the same way I feel about marriage. I think the vows are sacred, so I would never say them unless I meant to keep him, It seems like things have changed over the years though, and not as many people stay married anymore. But yeah, I'm really close to my youngest sister. Her and my mom have been rocks for me throughout the years I've been in prison. There's nothing that can compare to that. At times, it feels so helpless to be in here. And with most people, it's out of sight, out of mind. But you mentioned making some mistakes in your life that led you to some very, very bad consequences. Is there anything you'd be willing to share at this point in our relationship? If you don't feel comfortable enough, yeah, I understand, and I'm not tripping, okay? Either way, I'm glad you have the strength to keep your head high and keep moving forward. That's all we can really do, and maybe try to learn from all our adversity. So why do you keep insisting that you're boring? You're not boring, girl. I thought you wrote a beautiful letter, and I'm looking forward to learning more about you. And to answer your question, I haven't been on that website very long, maybe a few months. I've written to a handful of people, but haven't had a connection to anyone, if that's what you're asking. Just friendly conversation, and I mean, I didn't go on the website expecting anything more. I realize that I'm in prison for life, and that's probably a little too much for a woman to endure on that level. Don't get me wrong, deep inside I still hope for the chance to meet that special woman. I am an imperfect man after all, but I'm a realist too, so I try not to let myself get carried away with that idea, you know? You asked if I'd like some photos of anything. Yes, I'd love some photos of you, if you don't mind. I don't know how many you plan on sending, but there's a rule on photos here. You can only send 10 per envelope. Also, I wanted to tell you that it takes quite a while to send letters back and forth for us, since you're in Canada. A friend of mine has a fiance in Canada, and he says that it's a little slower than normal. It took 7 days, though, for me to receive your letter. From the date on the top of your letter, so that doesn't really seem that bad, I guess. I guess we'll have to wait and see how long it takes for mine to get to you, huh? Disregard the number on the outside of this envelope. By the way, I had to borrow an international envelope from a friend because I didn't have any. They make us put our numbers on them when we buy them, so that's why it's his number. I'll buy some of my own next week though, and I'll write down my own number and address at the bottom of this letter, okay? What did you want to know about my tattoos? There's so many now that I don't even know how many there are. There's some cultural stuff, Aztec and Mayan, and there's some names of family members. There's clowns and skulls, etc. Some of my stuff has meaning and some of it's purely art. I'm an artist myself, so I love art, period. What kind of tattoo are you gonna get? Do you know, or just have an idea? It's best to be really careful and make sure you see your artist's work before you let him tattoo on you. Just because he's in a tattoo shop doesn't mean he's good. He or she. Do you work? If so, what do you do? You told me that you like playing soccer and working out, so I'm assuming you're pretty active. Me too. I work out every day and play baseball a little bit too. You're tiny though. I'm 5'10" and 195 pounds, I guess. That's not real tall, but taller than average, right? You asked some pretty tough questions, so I'll do my best to answer them straight up. Well, actually, only one of them's tough, and that's because I'm not sure. You asked if I've ever been in love, and it's hard to know for sure. I mean, I thought I was, and then I later found out about a side of her that I didn't know existed. So is that to say that I never really loved her? Because it wasn't her I thought I loved. Who knows? It's pretty complicated, huh? But I've never had children. I have some nieces and nephews. That's it. What about you? Ever been in love? Opera and rap, huh? That's a pretty wide gap. I've never heard both of those mentioned in the same sentence. You're funny. I like rap though. I grew up on reggae and rap, some R&B, so that's mainly what I listen to. And speaking of growing up, I was born and raised in Salt Lake City, Utah. It's here in the US. I'm only half Mexican, but I've always considered myself Mexican, or actually Chicano. Just curious, how does a clumsy soccer player work? That's comedy. I'm just playing with you though. I'm sure you're probably exaggerating, huh? What kind of literature do you like to read? Are we talking about classic? Well, I like to read a little bit of everything. I'm reading some literature as we speak though. It's an excellent book. It's called Reign of Gold by Victor Villaseñor. If you get a chance, you might want to check it out. It's a story of struggle, redemption, and love. Listen to me, I sound like I'm advertising or something. Anyways, I guess I'll pull over right here for now, but I'll be looking forward to your next letter. I'm glad you decided to write to me. It's been a pleasure spending this little bit of time with you. Stay strong out there and keep that chin up. Sincerely, Quentin. I know it was very different for him when he met me. It's not the same thing, you know. I was going through so much out here, but he was also going through, you know, things in there. So our stories are very different in how we met and the circumstances, you know. So I think I'm going to have him tell his side in another video down the road. That was the first letter that he wrote to me. I hope it wasn't too disappointing of a video. I tried not to talk too much about, you know, like my suicide, and I didn't want to get into too much detail of that, especially because of my previous video. I didn't want this to be like just, you know, sad content all the time, but like he was my silver lining, and I absolutely adore this man, and I wouldn't change a thing what led me to meet him. I would do it all over again. So that's it for this video. Thank you so much for tuning in. I truly appreciate you guys for taking the time out of your day to watch my content. Please take care of yourself, love one another, help out your neighbor, give a smile to a stranger. Until next time.